In this tutorial, I'm going to give you a crash course on using navbar components. We'll start by copying a navbar into a project. We'll then break down the anatomy of a navbar and what elements it's made of. And then we'll style the navbar. And then lastly, we'll finish up with some design tips. So let's get started. You can find the navbar by clicking the Browse Components dropdown and clicking Navbars. Here you'll find a selection of navbars which you can copy and paste into any project. Let's go ahead and copy the navbar 5 and paste it into the Webflow project. Now you might be wondering, where should I paste this navbar? And the answer is inside of the page wrapper, but above the main wrapper. Now the main wrapper holds content that's inside of the page, which does not include the navbar or the footer. So the navbar goes above the main wrapper and the footer goes below the main wrapper. So we'll go ahead and we'll paste it in. Great, so let's now look at the anatomy of the navbar. So every navbar is made up of a logo, a navbar menu containing navbar links, navbar dropdowns and navbar buttons, which we'll go into more detail. And then the navbar menu button. So what is the navbar menu button? Well, the navbar menu button is essentially only visible on tablet for this specific navbar, but it's the hamburger menu that opens the navbar menu that becomes hidden on tablet. So for this particular navbar, the navbar menu button appears on tablet. However, if you wish to use a hamburger menu for desktop and to have that structure, which you can, by the way, select here and drag and choose, I would recommend you use another navbar that uses the hamburger menu in the desktop. Just because we've designed this navbar specifically to appear, for the burger menu to appear on tablet. So it's much easier to just use a different component. Okay, now let's dive deeper into each part of this navbar. So firstly, we have the logo, which you can replace, and that will be quite straightforward. You'll notice that we have wrapped it inside of a logo link. Now, the logo link is a link block that you can use to add a link back to the home page, which is a very common pattern used on websites. So you can do so by going to the link settings and choosing and selecting home page. Now let's open the navbar menu, which is split into two parts. Given the layout of this particular navbar, we have the menu items on the left, which contain the navbar links, and then we have the menu items on the right, which contain buttons. So your call to action buttons, which could be sign up, log in, get started, etc. Now, on the menu left, we have navbar links, and you'll notice a navbar dropdown. Now, for this particular navbar, we have a mega menu dropdown, which is used here. And to open the mega menu, what you want to do is you want to click either the navbar dropdown class here or the navbar dropdown toggle class. Go to the settings and you can toggle between show and hide. Now, if you wish to show this on hover, you can leave this checkbox ticked, or if you wish to show on click, you can unclick this. Now, keep in mind that on tablet and mobile, hover does not actually exist. Users cannot hover. So this translates to a click on tablet and mobile. Now, I'll go through editing the content inside of this later once we get around to styling, but if you wish to add another dropdown, you can simply do so by copy and pasting this particular dropdown, just like this. But I'm going to revert that change and head over to the buttons, where you can just simply replace these buttons too. Now, the navbar actually changes shape, as you've seen earlier. as it changes on different devices. And so we have already built this navbar to be mobile responsive, so you don't need to think about mobile responsiveness. And we've also added a nice animation for the burger menu, which I'll show you how to edit later. But as you can see, we have designed for mobile, and that's ready to go. This is one of the beauties of using the Relume library, is that you don't need to think about mobile responsiveness. It's more of a quicker afterthought once you've designed. Oh, okay, maybe I need to tweak a few things, but it shouldn't take you too long, which we'll demonstrate as we style this navbar, which takes us to the next part of this video of styling the navbar. So let's get started with the styling. For the purpose of this demo, I'll be referring to a design I have in Figma, and I've used the Relume library Figma kit as a base to save time. I've exported all the assets out from Figma, and I'm ready to import that into Webflow. So I'll start by adding in all the icons and assets. So I'll click to my assets, click all of them, and upload. Great. I'll also be using the font Inter, as you can see in the Figma file. And so I'll go ahead and I'll go to the project settings and upload the file for Inter. So I'll go to fonts and I will select Inter because it's a Google font, and I'll just add all the font weights that I use for Inter. And I'll add font. Now I'll return back to the designer. What I'll do is I'll just click the body as a quick way of updating all the fonts, and I will click Inter as the base font. I only use one font for this design, so it should be quite straightforward. Now, let's start the styling of this navbar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the content. So I'm going to just add in pricing. I'm going to remove this link, and we're going to call this more. So as you can see here, I'm copying that. And then we have one button on the right for get early access. So I won't need that. Here's the one button, and I'll just type in get early access. Great. Now I will add the logo. I'll replace this and add the logo, and I'll use it as an image HDPI just because it will make the logo retina quality. Now I'm going to change the color of the navbar. So I'll go over to Figma and I'll just get the color of the navbar background hex code color. I'll then go back to the navbar 5 component, and I will go to backgrounds and I'll paste in the background color. Now this navbar has a bottom line, which I don't need for now. So I'm just going to, or for this design I don't need, so I'm just going to remove that by selecting option and click. That essentially just reverts to no border. Okay, great. So now you can see I cannot see my navbar links. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of these navbar links to white, and that has not actually changed the navbar link color. So what I'll do is I'll actually change the menu left and see if that works. Great, cool. The next thing that I will do is I will update the navbar link styling. So I will refer to the designs here. I use the font navbar medium. It is 16 pixels. So that converts to 16 pixels converts to rems. An easy way of doing it is to type in the pixel amount, then divide it by 16 and type in rem, and that equals 1 rem. So I don't actually have to change anything there. That's a good default. And essentially I just need to change the font weight, which is quite straightforward. Great. Now that is looking good. Next, I'll just want to style this button. And so I might want to actually style the button class. And so the reason why I want to do that is because I want every button to have the same style, whether it's large or small. The main button class will have a background of yellow, as you can see here. So I'm just going to apply it to the background class. Now, if you want more information on why I'm doing this and setting it up, I would advise you to check out the Webflow tutorials, and also read through client first documentation if this doesn't make sense to you. Okay, now the text color I'm going to go with is black, and the text font weight and size is semi-bold and 16. So I will change this to semi-bold, and it's 16, 1 rems is 16, so that's good. And then lastly, there is a round border radius. So I can just do quite a large border radius of say 20 rems. That will make it circular. So I could literally do anything probably above 5 rems and it would be circular. 2 rems might not be circular. Oh no, 2 rems is circular. 1 rem's not circular. So I just do quite a large a value here just to ensure that it's circular. If you were to do 100%, you actually get a different shaped button. So just do a large value here. Now, this button also has a border. I actually don't need a border, but however, so that the secondary button and the primary button are in line, what I'll do is I will match the color of the border to the color of the background. So I'm actually going to add this as a swatch so that I can reuse this. So I'm going to do that. Great. And so that is the navbar completed for now. What I'll want to also do is just see how it looks on tablet and mobile. And as you can see, the burger menu is not visible. So I'm going to change the color of that burger menu. So what I want to do is I want to open the navbar menu button and open the menu icon and select the line on top, make that white, select the line in the middle, make that white, and select the line on the bottom and make that white. And so as you can see here now, I have changed the color of the hamburger menu, which looks good across all devices. Great. Now let's jump into the mega menu so that we can start to implement this design. Great. So let's now open the drop-down toggle by clicking the drop-down link and clicking show. And here you'll see that the navbar link is actually not visible. So the first thing that I'm going to do to make the text visible is click the navbar drop-down link and adjust the color to black so that it is visible. Considering that everything inside this drop-down list will have text black, for now I'm going to change that. As you can see, the text now is not visible, so a quick fix, and the reason why this text is not visible inside of here is because I've actually set the text color to white here, because by changing the color here, it's not adjusting, so I've had to go to the parent class to change it. And so because the drop down is inside this parent class, all the text inside the drop down is white also. So I guess an easy way around this is to just change this to black, and now all the text inside here can be visible, and then I can be specific about what color I want each each text to be. So the first thing that I'll do for this drop down is to change the content. So we have solutions as a heading here. We have resources as a heading here, right? And we have featured from the blog, which is just featured. Now, in terms of the links, we have data control, and I'll just go through and I'll update all the copy here. Great, so I've updated all the copy. I can just remove this one. And now I'm going to begin styling. So let's start from the top and refer to the text here. It is 16 pixels semi-bold. So actually I'm using a set of classes to style this. So the text weight's correct, but the text size is not. So the text size for 16 as a class is text normal. No, sorry, wrong class. Text size regular, which is 1 rem. And so I'm just going to copy and paste that and use that here for all of them. Great. And then for the heading here, where we are using semi-bold and 1 rem. And so let's look, 1 rem, 16 pixels, that's all correct. And then we're using text size small, which is 14 pixels, which according to this design, we're using the exact same. So that's cool, right? That is all good. What does change, however, is the the font color, which we can change as well. So what we'll want to do is there's multiple ways to approach this. I think the best way would be to use a class here. So if we were to go text color dark gray, right? Which is basically what I've used here. I think I've used fill black with 65% opacity. Then also remember that we had hide mobile landscape as a class, right? So that is what I'll add. And so what I can do is essentially just copy and paste this here and just swap out the content and delete that. That's probably the quickest way to do this, right? So cool. Now let's start to create the hover state and the icon. So I'm going to add in all the icons and images now. So let's start with this icon image and replace this and use the toggle. Now I'm using a class for icon sizing here, and so what we actually use for this icon is an icon that is 32 pixels by 32 pixels, which I'm pretty sure is icon class called icon small, which no, it isn't. I think it could be icon class medium. Sorry, it is icon small. Let's see. Yeah, 2 rem. So 2 rem is 32 pixels. So it's the icon small class. And so what we can do is we can just add that as the class for all of them. And then swap out the icons. Great. Okay, so you will notice for the navbar drop-down link, this basically has already built in a 8 pixel 0.5 rem padding, vertical padding. Now going back to the design, we can observe that I'm actually using a 12 pixel vertical and as you can see here, a vertical and horizontal padding. So we will adjust that to 12 pixels. So we can type in 12 pixels divided by 16 rems, right? And then I can hold Shift and Option on Mac and flick that. And we have basically 12 pixels all around. That's good. And then the spacing between the icon and the text, I think I use 16 pixels. So I can just adjust that to 1 rem to free up some more space, some more breathing room. All right, so as you can see here in the design, we use a hover state that is sort of purplish, dark purplish, and then a hover state that is like a dark green. So there's different hover states. Let's go ahead and start creating the hover state. So for the first one, I'm going to do add another class called purple hover, right? But before I actually do that, what I'll probably want to do is just make the radius border of this match the design. So I can go ahead and it's 8 pixels. So I can just go 0.5 rems and then I can go purple hover, right? And then we can go to the hover state, right? So the purple hover is essentially this color, but it's an opacity of 20%. Cool. And so one last thing to make this transition a little smoother. Oops, sorry, it's not transition. This transition a little smoother is that we'll go all properties, we'll make that 200 pixels. And so for any of the links that use the purple hover will appear. So let's see. Let's test that. Great. That's looking good. Now, let's do, for this one, we'll do green hover and apply the same thing. So we'll want on hover, background changes, match the green, 20%. Great. So the left-hand side has been styled and is looking really good. Now it's time to style the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and style the content right. So what we'll do is we'll first start by replacing images here. And then what we'll want to do is we'll want to achieve this rounded edges for the images, which has an 8 pixel radius. And there's a few ways that we could do this. One way would be to just apply it to the blog image, or you could apply it to the blog image wrapper and select overflow hidden, but I'm just going to apply it to the blog image. I think that will work perfectly. So let's go ahead and make a border radius of 8 pixels. And then for the font weight, this will be 18 pixels. So that is actually text size medium, and I'll add the text size medium class here as well. And then we can do the text color dark gray here as well. And then we have basically a text style link. What I'm going to go with is, let's look back at what we've done. So we've semi-bold with 14 pixels. I can achieve that by doing text size small, which is 14 pixels, and then text weight semi-bold, right? And then I can basically just copy that, paste that here. Now, this section can be a CMS section. This is not a CMS section. I've made it just static for now. But if you were to swap this out for a collection, then you can add your collection. And if you want to learn how to transform components into a CMS collection or integrate CMS collections into components, we have some tutorials. Check out the Relume University. Okay, lastly, we have articles, which uses a semi-bold text and an icon. So what I might actually do here is do this icon a little bit differently. This is another way that you can do icons. Essentially, I'm going to copy as the SVG. I'm going to replace this, paste it in, right? Save. And then I'm just going to make this text weight semi-bold. Cool. And you'll also see that this black line below here, I don't mind the black line. This is default for this component, but you know, there's two ways that I could approach this. I could either have this like thick black line here. I think that fits the design quite well. Or I can use a shadow. I think that the thick black line probably works better given the design that you see here. We use thicker black lines, so I think that makes sense. So I'm just going to go back, open the drop down toggle and leave that as is. And then we have the background here, which I'm going to get the color of it, the hex code, and change that. So click that and change that color. Cool. All right. And then lastly, I think we have a black line here on the side here too, which we can do like that. All right. And so that is looking really nice. That is basically the design that we've been trying to achieve, which, you know, is hoverable, looks really neat, and at this point works, I imagine, decently across devices. Okay, as you can see here, it doesn't. So what we'll need to do now is we want to click the actual navbar component and go show menu, and then we'll want to go for the menu. We have, remember we adjusted the color to white. What we want to do is just adjust that back to black. And I think that's all we'll need to do. I think the rest will basically adapt. So there you are. There we have it. Now, if I wanted to remove that outline line, I think I'd want to do that. I can do that quite easily. But as you can see, this is looking very nice across mobile, desktop, tablet, and, you know, does the trick. There are minor things that I would change, as you can see here. But for the most part, this has been styled. Now, last thing that I will want to do is to make this navbar sticky to the top of the screen. So as it scrolls, I want this get early access to appear. And so what I'm going to do is I'm firstly going to add a div block just as a, just to show the scroll. So I'm going to make this 300 VH, right? I'm just going to quickly color it the same color as the background here. Right. So now we can get that scroll happening. And what I'll want to do is I'll just want to make this position fixed and then set this to align to top. And now I have a sticky scroll bar. And finally, let's jump into some design tips and takeaways. So the first one is make link labels quick to read and easy to understand. So sometimes it's better to go with familiar labels like pricing, about, than it is to invent a word. Also, rely on your Google Analytics data. So if you're working with clients, try and get the information on what pages are most visited if you're redesigning an existing website, so that you can rank the items in your navbar by importance or by most popular. So you might want to have the most frequently clicked on links earlier in the navbar. People read from left to right, so maybe you want to have it on the left, or inside of a mega menu, you might want to have it at the top. So using Google Analytics is the second tip. And tip number 3 is to limit the number of CTAs used in a navbar. You want to basically limit the amount of options people have. If you just have one CTA, make that call to action super clear. Guarantee you it will increase conversions. And then the last tip is, if the goal of the web page is to drive sales, keep that CTA button sticky and accessible at all times. Make sure that it's fixed and it's always visible on screen. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it useful and you would like to continue to improve your design and development workflow on Webflow, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, if you would like to see more videos like this, you can visit the Relume University on our website. And if you would like to join a community of designers and developers using Webflow, you can join our Slack channel. It's free and you can find it on our website in the footer and also on our socials. Thanks for watching this video and enjoy building.